I never thought my life would change because I noticed a stain. That's the thing about being a hotel maid. You become invisible. People talk around you, leave things in plain sight, and act as if the walls have no eyes or ears. For 4 years, I had perfected the art of blending into the background at the Monarch Grand Hotel. I was good at my job, efficient enough to earn a few extra shifts when I needed them, which was often. Raising my 6-year-old daughter Lily on my own meant I took every opportunity for overtime. The scent of lavender cleaning solution filled my nostrils as I pushed my cart down the plush hallway of the penthouse floor. The Monarch wasn't just any hotel. It was where the wealthy came to escape notice. The kind of place with private elevators, discreet staff, and rooms that cost more per night than my monthly rent. My hands were already raw from scrubbing bathrooms on the lower floors, but the penthouse level required special attention and special clearance. "Room 1701 needs servicing, Ellie," my supervisor had said, sliding the special access card across her desk. Her eyes narrowed. The guest requested absolute privacy. In and out, no lingering. My heart skipped. The penthouse suites were rarely serviced during occupancy unless specifically requested, and they always tipped well. I needed every extra dollar, with Lily's school supplies becoming more expensive by the day. The hallway was eerily quiet, the thick carpet swallowing the squeak of my cartwheels. I swiped the access card, hearing the soft click of the door unlocking. I knocked once, twice, announcing housekeeping in the practiced, gentle voice we were trained to use. When no one answered, I pushed the door open. The penthouse suite opened before me like something from another world. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the city skyline, the late afternoon sun casting golden light across Italian marble floors. The air smelled different here, expensive cologne, leather, and something else I couldn't place. I began my routine, replacing towels, checking amenities, making sure everything was immaculate. That's when I noticed it. A small, dark stain on the pristine white carpet near the desk. Most people wouldn't have seen it, but years of cleaning had trained my eye to spot imperfections. I knelt down, reaching for the specialized cleaner in my cart. As I leaned closer, my blood turned cold. It wasn't coffee or wine, it was blood. My hands froze mid-air, heart hammering against my ribs. I should leave it. Walk away. Pretend I never saw it. But my body moved on autopilot, professional instincts kicking in. I sprayed the cleaner, watching as the stain began to lift. That's when I noticed the desk drawer wasn't completely closed. Don't look. Just clean the stain and leave. But curiosity, that dangerous, persistent thing, made my eyes drift toward the drawer. It was open just enough that I could see the edge of what looked like a photograph. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe I was being paranoid. I stood, attempting to steady my breathing. My hand reached out, almost without my permission, and pulled the drawer open another inch. It wasn't just one photograph. It was dozens scattered in the drawer. And on top of them, a leather-bound notebook. The photograph on top showed a man I recognized immediately, the mayor of our city, shaking hands with someone whose face was just out of frame. Scrawled across the photo in red ink were the words, "Payment due." I shouldn't have touched it. I should have closed the drawer and walked away. But my fingers seemed to have a mind of their own, lifting the edge of the photo to reveal the one beneath it. Another public figure, the police commissioner, in what appeared to be a compromising position with someone who was definitely not his wife. My stomach twisted as I realized what I was looking at. Blackmail material, evidence, things that could destroy lives and careers, things that normal people didn't possess. The sound of voices approaching in the hallway jolted me back to reality. I quickly pushed the drawer closed, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure it could be heard across the room. I returned to the carpet stain, scrubbing with renewed vigor, trying to look natural, to be invisible again. The door opened. I don't care what excuses they're making. I want it handled by tonight. The voice was deep, with the slightest accent I couldn't place. Eastern European, maybe. Authoritative, controlled, but with an underlying edge that sent chills down my spine. I kept my head down, focusing on the now fading stain, praying he wouldn't notice me. But the footsteps stopped abruptly. "Who are you?" I looked up, and the world seemed to shift beneath me. He stood in the doorway, tall and imposing in a perfectly tailored black suit that probably cost more than my yearly salary. Dark hair swept back from a face that belonged on a magazine cover. High cheekbones, strong jaw, and eyes so intensely blue they seemed to pierce right through me. But it wasn't his startling good looks that made my breath catch. It was the cold calculation in those eyes as they assessed me. Behind him stood a mountain of a man, clearly security, his hand resting casually near what I suspected was a concealed weapon. "I'm Ellie, sir. Housekeeping." My voice came out smaller than I intended. I was just finishing up. His gaze moved from my face to the carpet where I'd been cleaning, then to the desk drawer. Something changed in his expression. A subtle tightening around the eyes. "Leave us," he said to the security man, who nodded once and stepped outside, closing the door behind him. The click of that door sounded like a jail cell locking. He moved toward me with a predator's grace, and I found myself frozen in place, the cleaning cloth still clutched in my trembling hand. He stopped only a few feet away, close enough that I could smell his cologne, something expensive and intoxicating. "What did you see, Ellie?" My name on his lips sounded different somehow, dangerous and intimate at the same time. "Nothing, sir. I was just cleaning a stain." I gestured weakly to the carpet. His eyes, God, those eyes, studied me with such intensity I felt like he could read every thought in my head. "You're lying." It wasn't an accusation, just a simple statement of fact. "Your hands are shaking." I glanced down and realized he was right. I tried to still them, but it was useless. "I'm sorry, I'll go now." I began to gather my supplies, desperate to escape. "Did you look in the desk?" His voice remained unnervingly calm. The lie was on the tip of my tongue, but something told me he would know. It was open a little. I saw photographs. I didn't mean to pry. He was silent for so long, I thought he might be deciding how to kill me. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer, almost thoughtful. "You have a choice to make, Ellie. You can forget what you saw and walk out that door, or, I whispered, hardly daring to breathe. Or, you can stay and listen to what I'm about to tell you, knowing that once you do, there's no going back to your old life." The rational part of my brain screamed at me to run, to get as far away from this man and whatever dangerous world he inhabited as possible. But something else, curiosity perhaps, or some inexplicable pull toward him, kept me rooted to the spot. Before I could respond, my phone vibrated in my pocket. With shaking hands, I pulled it out, seeing the school's number flashing on the screen. "I have to take this," I said, surprising myself with my boldness. "It's my daughter's school." Something flickered across his face. Surprise, interest, I couldn't tell. He nodded once, and I answered the call, turning slightly away from him. "Ms. Evans? This is Nurse Patton from Westridge Elementary. Lily had an incident during recess. She fell and may have sprained her wrist. Could you come in?" My heart sank. "I'll be right there." I hung up and turned back to the man, finding him watching me with unexpected intensity. "I have to go. My daughter's hurt." I began gathering my things more quickly now. New urgency in my movements. "You have a child?" he asked, and there was something in his voice I couldn't identify. "A daughter. She's 6. Why was I telling him this? I needed to leave, not chat about my personal life with a man who might be contemplating my murder. He seemed to make a decision then, reaching into his jacket. I flinched involuntarily, but he only pulled out a business card, extending it toward me. "Alexei Volkov," he said as I hesitantly took the card. "Call this number tonight. We need to talk." I glanced down at the simple black card with only a name and number embossed in silver. "Mr. Volkov, Alexei," he corrected. "And make no mistake, Ellie. What you saw puts you in danger. Not from me, but from others. I can protect you and your daughter, but only if you trust me." "Why would you help us?" The question escaped before I could stop it. A smile touched his lips then, transforming his face from intimidating to devastatingly handsome in an instant. "Let's just say I have my reasons." He stepped closer, reaching out to tuck a strand of hair behind my ear. The casual intimacy of the gesture made me shiver. "Be careful, Ellie. Watch your surroundings. Call me tonight, without fail. With those words ringing in my ears, I fled the room, my mind racing faster than my feet as I pushed my cart toward the service elevator. The card burned in my pocket like a hot coal, and Alexei Volkov's blue eyes stayed with me long after I'd left the hotel. I couldn't have known then that those eyes would become both my salvation and my prison. The hospital waiting room was crowded with the usual afternoon chaos. Crying children, worried parents, overworked staff. Lily sat on an examination table, her small wrist wrapped in a temporary bandage, tears dried on her cheeks. When she saw me, her face lit up. "Mommy! The doctor says I'm very brave." I rushed to her side, careful not to jostle her injured arm. "You are the bravest girl I know." I smoothed her dark curls, so like my own, and kissed her forehead. "What happened, sweetheart?" "Tommy dared me to climb to the top of the monkey bars," she explained with the serious expression she reserved for important matters. "I almost made it. The doctor confirmed it was indeed a sprain, not a break. Small mercies." He wrapped her wrist properly and provided care instructions, which I listened to with half an ear, my mind still partially back in that hotel suite. Outside the hospital, as Lily and I waited for the bus, I had the strangest feeling we were being watched. I scanned the street, seeing nothing unusual among the passing cars and pedestrians. Still, the hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. It wasn't until we were halfway home on the crowded bus that I noticed the black SUV keeping pace with us. Tinted windows. Expensive. Out of place in our neighborhood. Be careful. Watch your surroundings. Alexei's warning echoed in my mind. I clutched Lily closer to me, my mind racing. Was I being paranoid, or was someone following us? And if so, was it Alexei's people, or someone else? By the time we reached our small apartment, my nerves were frayed. I hurried Lily inside, double-checking the locks on our door. "Can we have mac and cheese tonight?" Lily asked, blissfully unaware of my growing anxiety. "Of course, baby." I managed a smile, helping her out of her jacket. "Why don't you pick a movie while I cook?" As Lily settled on the couch with her favorite stuffed rabbit, I moved to the kitchen, automatically starting dinner preparations while my thoughts swirled. The business card was still in my pocket. I took it out, staring at the embossed name and number, Alexei Volkov. Who was he? What had I stumbled into? And what would happen if I didn't call? I glanced at Lily, contentedly humming to herself on the couch. Her injured wrist a stark reminder of how fragile she was, how fragile we both were. Whatever danger I was in, she was in it too. Simply by being mine, the decision crystallized in that moment. I would do whatever it took to keep her safe. Even if it meant diving headfirst into a world I didn't understand. After dinner, after Lily was tucked into bed with extra kisses for her battle wound, I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in one hand, Alexei's card in the other. My finger hovered over the keypad for a long moment before I finally began dialing. He answered on the first ring. "You made the right choice, Ellie." His voice through the phone sent a shiver down my spine, as if he'd been waiting, expecting my call at precisely that moment. "How did you know it was me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Lily was asleep in the next room, and the walls in our apartment were thin. A low chuckle. "I've been waiting. How's your daughter?" The fact that he remembered about Lily, or perhaps cared enough to ask, caught me off guard. "She's okay, just a sprained wrist." "Good." There was a pause, and I could almost picture him on the other end, those intense blue eyes focused and calculating. "We need to meet, not over the phone." My grip tightened on the receiver. "I can't leave my daughter alone. Bring her. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. There's a cafe called Bluebird on 7th Street. It's public, safe." The fact that he suggested a public place somewhat eased my anxiety. But another thought occurred to me. "I have work tomorrow." "No, you don't." His tone left no room for argument. "Your supervisor will be informed you've been reassigned to special services for a private client. Your usual salary will be doubled for the inconvenience." My heart skipped a beat. Doubled? That kind of money could help with Lily's upcoming school expenses, maybe even start the savings account I'd been putting off. "Why are you doing this?" I asked, the question that had been burning in my mind since our encounter. Because what you saw makes you valuable, he replied simply. And what you saw puts you in danger. The two cancel each other out, in a way. I don't understand. You will. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., wear something inconspicuous. And Ellie? His voice dropped lower. You were followed home today. My blood ran cold. By who? Not by my people, which is the concerning part. Be careful until tomorrow. Keep your doors locked. Before I could ask anything else, the line went dead. I sat frozen on my bed, phone still pressed to my ear, as if his voice might return with more explanations. Outside my window, the city lights blinked against the darkness, suddenly seeming more threatening than beautiful. I checked the locks 3 times that night, and slept with a kitchen knife under my pillow. The Bluebird Cafe was tucked between a bookstore and a vintage clothing shop, its blue awning fluttering gently in the morning breeze. I held Lily's hand tightly as we approached, scanning the street for any sign we were being followed again. My daughter was excited about our adventure day, as I'd called it to explain why she wasn't going to school. Is this a special breakfast place, Mommy? She asked, her injured wrist now sporting a colorful cast that her classmates had signed yesterday. Very special, I answered, forcing a smile. I'd dressed us both in jeans and simple tops, inconspicuous, as instructed. My dark hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and I wore minimal makeup. The less memorable we looked, the better. The cafe was half empty, the morning rush having subsided. I scanned the interior, my eyes landing on a booth in the back corner. Alexei Volkov sat facing the door, those striking blue eyes finding mine immediately. He wasn't alone. The mountain of a man I'd seen in the hotel suite sat across from him, his back to us. Alexei stood as we approached, his tall frame even more imposing in daylight. Today he wore dark jeans and a gray cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my monthly rent. He looked less like a businessman and more like a model on his day off. Ellie, he said, his accent caressing my name. His eyes dropped to Lily, and something in his expression softened. And this must be the brave monkey bar climber. Lily giggled, surprising me. She was normally shy around strangers, especially men, having grown up without a father figure. I'm Lily. I'm 6 3/4. A smile touched Alexei's lips, transforming his severe features. A pleasure to meet you, Lily. He gestured to the booth. Please sit. The large man, who Alexei introduced simply as Dmitri, stood and moved to another table nearby, his eyes constantly scanning the cafe. A bodyguard, obviously. Alexei slid a children's menu and crayons toward Lily. Why don't you decide what you'd like for breakfast while I talk with your mother? Lily happily began coloring the menu's cartoon characters, giving us a moment of semi-privacy. Thank you for coming, Alexei said, his voice low. I wasn't sure you would. You didn't give me much choice, I replied, keeping my own voice equally quiet. You said I was followed yesterday. By who? He signaled to a waitress who appeared almost instantly, taking our orders. Only after she'd gone did he continue. What you saw in that hotel room were materials I've been collecting for years. Evidence of corruption at the highest levels of this city. I glanced nervously at Lily, but she was absorbed in her coloring. Are you... law enforcement? A cold smile crossed his face. Not exactly. Then what? FBI? CIA? He leaned forward, his eyes holding mine. I'm what you might call a businessman with varied interests. Some legitimate, some less so. The realization hit me like a physical blow. You're a criminal. Such a simplistic term, he murmured. I prefer to think of myself as someone who operates outside conventional boundaries. The evidence you found is my insurance policy against certain powerful people who would like to see me removed from the equation. I felt dizzy, the full gravity of my situation crashing down on me. I've gotten involved with the Mafia, haven't I? Alexei didn't confirm or deny, but the slight tilt of his head was answer enough. The men who followed you work for Mayor Harrington, one of the men whose compromising photos you saw. He has sources in the hotel, and they informed him a maid had accessed my suite. It wasn't difficult for them to identify you. His jaw tightened. They know where you live. My eyes darted to Lily, fear clutching at my throat. What do they want from me? They want to make sure you didn't see anything. And if you did, they want to make sure you never speak of it." His voice was matter of fact, as if discussing the weather rather than threats to my life. "I would never—" "They don't know that," he interrupted gently, "and they're not the type to take chances." Our food arrived, momentarily pausing the conversation. Lily squealed with delight at her pancakes shaped like a teddy bear, complete with fruit features. Despite everything, I found myself smiling at her joy. So innocent, so untouched by the darkness suddenly surrounding us. "What do I do?" I asked once the waitress had gone, picking at my own untouched breakfast. Alexei studied me for a moment, those blue eyes unreadable. "You have two options. You can try to run, change your identities, start over somewhere new. And the second option? You come with me. I can protect you. Both of you." He glanced at Lily with an expression I couldn't quite decipher. "I have a house outside the city, secure, private. You'll be safe there until this situation is resolved." "For how long?" "A few weeks, perhaps a month." I laughed bitterly. "I can't just disappear for a month. I have a job. Lily has school." "All can be arranged," he said smoothly. "Your job has already been handled. Lily can have tutors at the house, better education than she's currently receiving, I'd wager." The casual way he spoke about rearranging our lives both angered and frightened me. Why would you do all this for strangers? What do you get out of it? His eyes darkened. Perhaps I have my own reasons for wanting to protect an innocent woman and her child. Before I could press further, a subtle change came over him. His posture stiffened, his gaze shifting to something over my shoulder. A nearly imperceptible nod to Dmitri, who immediately stood. "We need to leave," Alexei said quietly. "Don't turn around. Finish your coffee naturally, then we'll go." My heart began racing, but I forced myself to remain calm for Lily's sake. "What is it?" "Two men just entered. They work for the mayor." His hand reached across the table, covering mine. The warmth of his skin was startling. "Trust me, Ellie. Please." Something in his eyes, an intensity, a genuine concern, made my decision for me. I squeezed his hand once, then turned to Lily. "Sweetheart, we need to go now. Mr. Alexei has invited us to see his house." "Would you like that?" Lily looked up from her half-eaten pancakes, her eyes bright with the excitement of a new adventure. "Is it a big house? Does it have a swimming pool?" Alexei's smile returned, warm and genuine. "Yes, to both questions. And a library full of children's books." "Can Bunny come?" She held up her worn stuffed rabbit that went everywhere with her. "Bunny is absolutely invited," Alexei assured her, standing and dropping several large bills on the table. Far more than our meal had cost. Dmitri moved to the door, creating a barrier between us and whoever had entered. Alexei guided us toward the cafe's back exit, his hand lightly touching the small of my back. The gentle pressure was oddly reassuring. A sleek black car waited in the alley behind the cafe. Another large man stood beside it, opening the door as we approached. "This is Ivan," Alexei explained as we slid into the luxurious interior. "He'll be driving us." The car pulled away, just as two men emerged from the cafe's back door, their expressions hardening when they spotted our departing vehicle. One reached inside his jacket, but we turned the corner before I could see what happened next. Were they going to— I couldn't finish the question, not with Lily sitting between us. Alexei's jaw was tight. "Yes." I pulled Lily closer to me, fighting back tears. What had I gotten us into? The city gradually gave way to winding roads and increasingly secluded properties. Lily fell asleep against my side, exhausted from the morning's excitement. I stroked her hair, watching the world pass by outside the tinted windows. "She looks like you," Alexei observed quietly. "Everyone says that." I smiled faintly. Same curls, same stubbornness. "Her father?" The question was casual, but I sensed genuine curiosity behind it. "Not in the picture." I kept my voice neutral. "He left when I told him I was pregnant. Said he wasn't ready to be a father." Something dark flashed in Alexei's eyes. "A coward." "Yes," I agreed, surprised by his assessment, "but we've managed. It's been just Lily and me against the world." I studied his profile, the strong line of his jaw, the intensity etched into every feature. "What about you? Family?" A shadow crossed his face. "My parents died when I was young." I have a younger sister in Europe. It's safer for her there. Safer from what? His eyes met mine. From the life I chose. Before I could ask more questions, the car turned onto a private road, passing through imposing iron gates that closed automatically behind us. Tall trees lined the driveway, obscuring the property from view until we rounded a final curve. Oh my God, I breathed. The house, no, mansion, rose before us. A stunning modern structure of glass, stone, and steel nestled against the hillside. Manicured gardens surrounded it. And beyond, I could glimpse the sparkle of what must be the swimming pool Alexei had mentioned. "Welcome to my home," Alexei said, watching my reaction with what seemed like amusement. Lily stirred, her eyes widening as she took in the house. "It looks like a castle." "It's yours to explore," he told her, his voice gentler than I'd heard before, once we're inside. The car stopped at the front entrance, where a woman in a simple black dress waited. "This is Mrs. Chen," Alexei explained. "She manages the household." Mrs. Chen bowed slightly. "Welcome, Miss Evans, Miss Lily. Your rooms are prepared." My head was spinning. Rooms? Prepared? How long had Alexei been planning this? As if reading my thoughts, he leaned closer, his breath warm against my ear. "I've been watching you since yesterday, Ellie. Making arrangements. I protect what's mine." A shiver ran through me. "I'm not yours." His eyes held mine, intense and unreadable. "You saw what was in that drawer. You know my secrets. That makes you mine until this is over." There was a possessiveness in his voice that should have frightened me. Instead, it awakened something else. A strange fluttering in my chest that I didn't want to examine too closely. Mrs. Chen led us through the house, which was even more impressive inside. Soaring ceilings, museum-quality art, furnishings that belonged in design magazines. Lily skipped ahead, all traces of fear gone, her natural curiosity taking over. Our rooms turned out to be an entire wing of the house, a spacious suite for me, with an adjoining bedroom for Lily, both overlooking the gardens and pool. A closet had been filled with clothing in my size, and Lily's room contained toys and books that would have cost me months of salary. "How did you know our sizes?" I asked when Alexei joined us after a brief absence. "I have resources," he replied simply. "I'll leave you to settle in. Mrs. Chen will show you around when you're ready. We'll talk more at dinner." He turned to go, then paused. "One rule, Ellie. You and Lily have free access to most of the house and grounds, but the East Wing is off limits. My business is conducted there. For your safety, stay away." The warning reminded me of a fairy tale, Beauty and the Beast, with its forbidden West Wing. Except in this story, the Beast wore tailored clothing and had eyes that could freeze or burn you with a glance. "I understand," I said, though part of me was already wondering what secrets the East Wing held. After he left, I sat on the edge of the bed, trying to process everything that had happened in the last 24 hours. How had I gone from an invisible hotel maid to living in a criminal's mansion? What would happen to us when this situation was resolved? And most troublingly, why did part of me feel more alive in Alexei's dangerous presence than I had in years? Lily's delighted squeal from the other room pulled me from my thoughts. I found her bouncing on her bed, surrounded by stuffed animals. "Mommy, look! This one looks just like Bunny, but new." She held up a plush rabbit that was indeed a pristine version of her beloved worn toy. I sat beside her, pulling her close. "Do you like it here, baby?" She nodded enthusiastically. "Mr. Alexei is nice. He has pretty eyes, like the ocean in my picture books, out of the mouths of babes." "Yes, he does," I admitted. "Are we going to stay here forever?" The question struck me like a physical blow. "No, sweetheart. This is just temporary until..." "Until what? Until the danger passed? Until Alexei tired of protecting us? Until things get sorted out." She seemed to accept this, turning her attention back to the toys. I watched her play, wondering what I'd tell her years from now about this strange interlude in our lives, if we survived it. Later, as the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, I stood at the window, watching as Alexei emerged onto the terrace below. He moved with that same predatory grace I'd noticed in the hotel, power contained in every step. He paused, as if sensing my gaze, and looked up directly at my window. Our eyes met across the distance, and something unspoken passed between us, a connection I couldn't explain and didn't want to acknowledge. I stepped back from the window, my heart racing. What kind of protection would come with invisible chains? And why didn't the thought of those chains terrify me as much as it should? The first week in Alexei's mansion passed in a strange, dreamlike state. Each morning I woke in silk sheets that felt like clouds against my skin, momentarily disoriented before remembering our circumstances. Lily, on the other hand, adapted with the remarkable resilience of children. She treated our stay like an extended vacation, delighting in the pool, the gardens, and the endless supply of toys and books that seemed to appear magically in her room. Mrs. Chen had arranged for a tutor, a kind middle-aged woman named Ms. Winters, who came each weekday morning to continue Lily's education. I was surprised by how comprehensive the lessons were, far beyond what she received at her public school. "Your daughter is quite bright," Ms. Winters informed me after their third session. "With the right education, she could go far. The right education, something I could never afford on a maid's salary." The thought left a bitter taste in my mouth. Alexei himself remained something of a phantom. He appeared at dinner most evenings, making polite conversation and asking Lily about her day with genuine interest. With me, he was unfailingly courteous but maintained a careful distance. Sometimes I'd catch him watching me when he thought I wasn't looking, his blue eyes intense and unreadable. The East Wing remained off-limits, as promised, though occasionally I'd see men in suits entering or leaving, their expressions serious and purposeful. Business associates, I assumed, though what kind of business they conducted I didn't want to know. It was on the 8th day that I finally gathered the courage to ask the question that had been burning in my mind. We were alone on the terrace after dinner, Lily having gone inside with Mrs. Chen to prepare for her bath. The evening air was cool, scented with jasmine from the garden below. Alexei stood at the stone railing, his profile illuminated by the setting sun, a glass of amber liquid in his hand. "Why me?" I asked, moving to stand beside him. "You could have dealt with this situation in other ways, paid me off, threatened me. Instead, you've brought us into your home, given us—" I gestured vaguely at our surroundings. "All of this. Why?" He was quiet for so long I thought he might not answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, almost reverent. "You remind me of someone I once knew, someone I failed to protect." I turned to face him fully. "Who?" His eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw a crack in his armor, a glimpse of old pain, quickly masked. My mother. She was a hotel maid too, working to support me and my sister after our father abandoned us. The parallel to my own life wasn't lost on me. What happened to her? She saw something she shouldn't have. Like you, his knuckles whitened around his glass. Unlike you, she had no one to protect her. A chill ran through me despite the mild evening. "I'm sorry. It was a long time ago." He took a drink, his expression hardening again. "When I saw you in that hotel room, kneeling on the floor, trying to remove a bloodstain that wasn't your responsibility, something in me couldn't let history repeat itself. It was the most personal thing he'd shared with me, a glimpse behind the controlled facade." I reached out, my fingers brushing his hand lightly. "Thank you for telling me." His eyes dropped to where our skin touched, and something shifted in his gaze, a heat that hadn't been there before. Slowly, deliberately, he turned his hand, capturing my fingers with his own. His thumb traced small circles on my palm, sending unexpected sparks up my arm. "There's more to it than that, Ellie," he said, his voice deeper now. "I find myself drawn to you in ways I didn't anticipate." My breath caught in my throat. The attraction between us had been an undercurrent since that first meeting in the hotel suite, but neither of us had acknowledged it until now. It was dangerous, complicated, and utterly consuming. "This is a bad idea," I whispered, even as I stepped closer to him. "You're who you are. I'm just a maid with a daughter to protect." And yet, his free hand came up to cup my face, his touch surprisingly gentle for a man I knew could be so dangerous. "Here we are. The moment stretched between us, heavy with possibility. His eyes dropped to my lips, and I knew he was going to kiss me. Knew I was going to let him. "Mommy, come see my bubble mountain," Lily's voice called from inside, shattering the moment. Alexei stepped back immediately, releasing my hand. A faint smile touched his lips. "You should go. Bubble mountains are serious business." I nodded, my heart still racing, and turned to go inside. At the door, I paused, looking back at him. He stood where I'd left him, his figure outlined against the darkening sky, watching me with those intense eyes. "Alexei," I said softly, "I'm not your mother. You don't need to save me to make up for what happened to her." Something flashed across his face. Respect, perhaps, that I'd seen through to his motivations. "No, you're not her. You're something else entirely, Ellie Evans. Something I never expected to find." I slipped inside before I could say anything more, before the magnetic pull between us could draw me back to him. Lily's delighted giggles echoed from the bathroom, grounding me back in reality, in the reason I needed to be careful. My daughter was my priority, no matter how those blue eyes made my heart race, no matter how his touch awakened parts of me I'd thought long dormant. Later that night, after Lily was asleep, I stood at my bedroom window, gazing out at the moonlit garden. A movement caught my eye. Alexei, walking alone among the sculpted hedges, his hands in his pockets. Even from a distance, I could sense the tension in his shoulders, the weight he carried. What must it be like, I wondered, to live in his world? To have power and wealth but always be looking over your shoulder? To keep everyone at a distance because closeness meant vulnerability? As if sensing my thoughts, he looked up, his eyes finding mine across the darkness. This time, I didn't step away from the window. I held his gaze, acknowledging the connection between us, whatever it might be. He inclined his head slightly, a gesture that felt like a promise, before disappearing into the shadows of the garden. That night, I dreamed of blue eyes and gentle hands with dangerous pasts. The next morning, I was awakened by a gentle knock at my door. Mrs. Chen entered, her expression more serious than usual. "Mr. Volkov requests your presence in his study, Ms. Evans." Immediately, I sat up, instantly alert. "Is something wrong?" "It's not my place to say." She laid out clothing for me, a simple but elegant blue dress I hadn't worn yet. "Your daughter will remain with Ms. Winters until you return." I dressed quickly, a knot of anxiety forming in my stomach. Had something happened? Was our safety compromised? Or was this about last night, about the moment we'd shared on the terrace? The study was located at the border of the main house and the forbidden east wing. I'd passed it before but never entered. I knocked softly on the heavy wooden door. "Come in." Alexei's voice was clipped, all business. I entered to find him standing behind a massive desk, reviewing documents with Dmitri at his side. The room was impressive, walls lined with books, a fireplace large enough to stand in, windows overlooking the wooded portion of the property. But it was Alexei who commanded attention, dressed in a charcoal suit that emphasized his broad shoulders and tall frame. He looked up as I entered, his expression unreadable. "Thank you for coming, Ellie." "Dmitri, give us the room." The bodyguard nodded once and left, closing the door behind him. "Is everything all right?" I asked, standing awkwardly by the door. Mrs. Chen seemed concerned. "There's been a development." Alexei gestured for me to sit in one of the leather chairs facing his desk. "Mayor Harrington was found dead this morning." The air seemed to leave the room. "Dead? How?" "Officially, a heart attack." His voice was neutral. "Unofficially, he was helped along by someone who didn't appreciate his recent activities. Did you—" I couldn't finish the question. His eyes hardened. "No. Contrary to what you may believe, I don't make a habit of killing people, Ellie. Especially not in ways that could be traced back to me." I believed him, which was perhaps more disturbing than if I hadn't. "Then who?" "That's what concerns me." He moved around the desk, perching on its edge closer to me. "Harrington had many enemies, but the timing suggests this is connected to the photos you found. Someone is cleaning house, eliminating loose ends. The implication sent ice through my veins. And I'm a loose end. Precisely. His jaw tightened. We need to move you and Lily to a more secure location, at least temporarily. More secure than this? I gestured to the mansion with its gates, security systems, and ever-present guards. This property is known to certain people. The place I'm thinking of isn't. He reached out, taking my hand in his. I wouldn't suggest this if I didn't believe it was necessary, Ellie. I promised to protect you and Lily, and I intend to keep that promise. The sincerity in his voice was unmistakable. Whatever else Alexei Volkov might be, criminal, businessman, dangerous man, he was a man of his word. When do we leave? I asked quietly. Relief flickered across his face, as if he'd expected more resistance. Tonight, after dark. Pack only essentials. Everything else will be provided, I nodded, my mind already racing ahead to how I would explain another move to Lily. How long will we be gone? I don't know, he admitted, until I can identify who's behind this and address the situation. The vague phrasing told me enough about how he planned to address it. I should have been horrified, but all I felt was a cold determination that whoever threatened my daughter's safety should indeed be addressed. There's something else you should know, he said, his expression growing more serious. The man in the second photograph you saw, the police commissioner, he's been asking questions about you, specifically about your ex. My ex? I frowned. Jack hasn't been in the picture for years. He wanted nothing to do with Lily or me. Alexei's eyes narrowed slightly. Tell me about him. There's not much to tell. We dated for about a year. When I got pregnant, he left. Said he wasn't ready for responsibility. The old pain was dull now, long overshadowed by the joy Lily brought to my life. He moved away, I think. We haven't heard from him since. What was his full name? Jackson Miller. I watched Alexei's face carefully. Why? What does he have to do with any of this? Alexei seemed to be weighing how much to tell me. Jack Miller is the commissioner's nephew. And according to my sources, he's back in town. The floor seemed to shift beneath me. That's not possible. He never wanted anything to do with Lily. People change, Alexei said, though his tone suggested he didn't believe it. Or their motivations change. I need to know everything about him, what he looks like, his habits, his weaknesses, anything you can remember. My head was spinning. Jack was back? After 6 years of silence, of not sending so much as a birthday card to his own daughter? I have a photo, I said finally. On my phone. From before. Before he left. Alexei nodded. Good. We'll need that. He hesitated, then added, Has he tried to contact you? No. I was certain of that much, at least. I haven't heard from him since I was 3 months pregnant. Something hardened in Alexei's expression. If he does reach out, you tell me immediately. Don't meet with him. Don't speak to him. Don't acknowledge him in any way. Understood? The intensity of his reaction surprised me. You think he's dangerous? I think he's connected to people who are. Alexei moved closer, taking both my hands in his. Promise me, Ellie. The possessive concern in his voice sent an unexpected thrill through me. I promise. He held my gaze for a long moment, then released my hands. Go prepare Lily for the move. Tell her it's another adventure. I'll come for you at midnight. I rose to leave, but at the door I turned back. Alexei, last night, what you said on the terrace. His expression softened slightly. We'll have time to talk about that later, when you're safe. I nodded, understanding that for now, safety had to come before whatever was developing between us. Still, as I closed the door behind me, I couldn't help feeling that my world had shifted irrevocably, not just because of the danger surrounding us, but because of the man at the center of them. Explaining to Lily that we needed to move again was easier than I expected. She was still in adventure mode, treating our entire situation like an exciting game. Mrs. Chen helped me pack our few belongings, her efficient movements belying the tension in the house. Mr. Volkov cares for you, she said unexpectedly as she folded Lily's favorite nightgown. I have worked for him for 7 years. I have never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. The observation caught me off guard. I barely know him. Mrs. Chen smiled knowingly. Some things do not require time. She handed me a small package wrapped in tissue paper. "This is for you. From him. He asked me to give it to you before you leave." Curious, I unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a delicate silver chain with a small pendant, a blue stone that matched Alexei's eyes exactly, surrounded by tiny diamonds. "It's beautiful," I breathed. It was his mother's. Mrs. Chen's voice was soft, the only thing he has left of her. My fingers trembled as I lifted the necklace. "I can't accept this. He wants you to have it. For protection," he said. She took it from my hands and moved behind me, fastening it around my neck. The pendant rested just below my collarbone, its weight slight but significant. "There. It suits you." I touched it gently, overwhelmed by the gesture. For Alexei to give me something so personal, so connected to the mother he couldn't save. The rest of the day passed in a blur of preparation and waiting. Dinner was a quiet affair, with Alexei absent. Lily fell asleep early, exhausted from the excitement of packing for our next adventure. I sat by her bed, watching her peaceful face, wondering what would become of us. At precisely midnight, a soft knock came at the door. Alexei stood in the hallway, dressed entirely in black. "It's time," he said quietly. "Is she asleep?" I nodded. "I'll carry her." "No need." With surprising gentleness, Alexei lifted Lily into his arms. She stirred slightly but didn't wake, instinctively curling against his chest. The sight of my daughter in his arms, so small and trusting against his powerful frame, created a lump in my throat. We moved silently through the darkened house, Dmitri leading the way, another guard following behind. Outside, a different car waited. Not the sleek luxury vehicle from before, but something more nondescript. "Where are we going?" I whispered as we settled into the back seat, Lily still asleep between us. "Somewhere no one would think to look for me," Alexei replied cryptically. "Or you." The car slipped through the gates and into the night, headlights off until we reached the main road. Alexei's hand found mine in the darkness, his fingers entwining with my own. I should have pulled away, should have maintained some boundary between us. Instead, I held on tighter, finding comfort in his strength. We drove for what felt like hours, the city giving way to countryside, then to dense forest. Eventually, we turned onto a dirt road that wound deeper into the woods, branches scraping against the windows. The cabin appeared suddenly in a small clearing, rustic but sturdy, with a wide porch and chimney. It looked nothing like the type of place I'd expect Alexei Volkov to own. "My hunting cabin," he explained, noting my surprise. "One of my few properties not connected to my public identity." Inside was simple but comfortable. Wooden walls, a stone fireplace, basic furniture. It felt secure, hidden away from the world and its dangers. Alexei carried Lily to a small bedroom off the main living area, laying her gently on the bed. I tucked her in, placing Bunny in her arms. She sighed in her sleep, clutching the toy closer. When I returned to the main room, Alexei was building a fire, his movements precise and practiced. Dmitri and the other guard had disappeared, presumably to secure the perimeter. "They'll keep watch outside," Alexei said, answering my unspoken question. "We're as safe here as we can be." The fire caught, casting warm light across the room. Outside, rain had begun to fall, pattering against the windows and roof. There was something intimate about the moment, just the two of us, the crackling fire, the rain creating a cocoon of sound around the cabin. I touched the pendant at my neck. "Mrs. Chen told me this was your mother's." He looked up, his eyes reflecting the firelight. "She shouldn't have told you that. Why did you give it to me?" He stood, brushing his hands on his pants. "The stone is a rare type of blue diamond. In my culture, it's said to provide protection against those who wish you harm." A faint smile touched his lips. "I'm not particularly superstitious, but it seemed appropriate." "Thank you," I said softly. "Not just for this, but for everything you've done for Lily and me." He moved closer, his presence filling my senses. "Don't thank me yet, Ellie. This isn't over." "What happens now?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Now?" His hand came up to trace the line of my jaw, feather-light. "Now we wait. My people are tracking down Jack Miller. Once we find him, we'll know more about what we're dealing with. The mention of Jack brought reality crashing back. I still don't understand what he has to do with any of this. Alexei's expression darkened. I have a theory. One I hope is wrong. Tell me. He hesitated, then sighed. The timing is suspicious. You find compromising photos of the commissioner. Suddenly his nephew, your ex, reappears after 6 years. The mayor turns up dead. It suggests Jack may have been placed in your life deliberately, all those years ago. The implication was staggering. You think our relationship was planned? That's insane. Is it? His eyes were intent on mine. The commissioner has been working with certain criminal organizations for years. Organizations that compete with mine. If they knew about my mother's history, they might have seen an opportunity to plant someone in the life of a hotel maid who could potentially access sensitive locations. My mind reeled, trying to process what he was suggesting. But that would mean Jack never cared for me at all. That everything between us was a lie. I'm sorry, Alexei said softly, genuine compassion in his voice. It's just a theory, but the coincidences are troubling. I turned away, fighting back tears. All these years I'd believed Jack had simply been a coward, afraid of responsibility. The possibility that our entire relationship had been a calculated move in some criminal chess game was almost too painful to contemplate. Warm hands settled on my shoulders, turning me gently back to face him. Ellie, look at me. I raised my eyes to his, not bothering to hide the tears now slipping down my cheeks. If I'm right, he said, his voice low and fierce, then he's a fool twice over, once for hurting you, and again for not recognizing what he had. His words wrapped around my heart like a balm. Without thinking, I stepped closer, eliminating the distance between us. His arms came around me immediately, solid and secure. I pressed my face against his chest, inhaling his scent, cologne and smoke from the fire. I'm scared, I admitted, the words muffled against his shirt. His hand stroked my hair, soothing. I know, but you're not alone anymore. I looked up at him, suddenly very aware of how close we were, of his arms around me, of the heat building between us. Alexei. This time, there was no interruption. His lips found mine in the firelight, gentle at first, then with increasing hunger as I responded. His hands tangled in my hair, angling my head to deepen the kiss. I clutched at his shoulders, pressing closer, losing myself in the sensation. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes were darker than I'd ever seen them. I've wanted to do that since I first saw you in that hotel room, he confessed, his voice rough. Even with me on my knees scrubbing a carpet? I asked, a breathless laugh escaping me. Especially then. He brushed his thumb across my lower lip. So determined, so dedicated, so beautiful. He kissed me again, and I let myself forget everything but the feel of him, his strength, his warmth, the surprising tenderness in his touch. Whatever dangers waited outside, whatever complicated history had brought us to this point. For now there was only this, the fire, the rain, and us. Morning light filtered through the cabin windows, bathing the rustic interior in a soft golden glow. I woke slowly, momentarily disoriented until the events of the previous night came rushing back. Alexei's revelation about Jack, the blue diamond pendant, our kiss by the fire. I touched my lips, still sensitive from his kisses, wondering if I'd dreamed it all. But the weight of the pendant against my skin was real, as was the faint scent of his cologne on my clothes. We hadn't gone further than those heated kisses. After pulling apart, breathing hard, Alexei had pressed his forehead to mine and whispered, "Not like this. Not when you're afraid and we're running." The restraint had surprised me and impressed me. It would have been easy to lose ourselves in the physical attraction between us, to use it as an escape from the danger surrounding us. Instead, he'd walked me to the second bedroom, kissed my hand with old-world formality, and left me to sleep alone with my thoughts. I slipped out of bed, hearing faint voices from the main room. Pulling on a robe I found hanging on the back of the door, I ventured out. Lily sat at the rustic wooden table, happily devouring pancakes shaped like animals while chattering to Alexei, who watched her with amusement as he sipped from a coffee mug. The domesticity of the scene stopped me in my tracks. And then the princess realized the dragon wasn't mean. He was just lonely, Lily was explaining, gesturing with her fork. So she became his friend, and they lived in the castle together. A wise princess, Alexei remarked seriously. Most people are afraid of things they don't understand. Like how Tommy in my class was scared of spiders until Ms. Winters showed us how they make webs, Lily asked, making the connection with impressive logic. Exactly like that, Alexei agreed, a genuine smile warming his features. He looked up, catching sight of me in the doorway. Good morning. His voice, low and intimate, sent a shiver through me. Last night hadn't been a dream after all. Mommy, Lily called, waving her fork. Mr. Alexei made pancakes. Mine's a elephant, I see that, I said, moving into the room. Did you thank him? She did, Alexei answered, rising to pour me a cup of coffee. Your daughter has impeccable manners. Our fingers brushed as he handed me the mug, the brief contact sending electricity up my arm. His eyes held mine, a silent acknowledgement of what had passed between us last night, and the unspoken promise of more to come. Where's Dmitri? I asked, noticing the absence of the ever-present bodyguard. Perimeter check. Alexei's voice shifted subtly to business mode. He should be back soon with news, I nodded, understanding the subtext. News about Jack, about whoever killed the mayor, about whether we were still in danger. I glanced at Lily, blissfully unaware as she continued eating her pancake elephant. After breakfast, perhaps you could show Lily the lake, Alexei suggested. It's just beyond those trees, safe, within our security perimeter. Can we, Mommy? Lily asked, eyes lighting up. I want to see if there are ducks. Of course, sweetheart. I managed a smile, grateful for the chance to give her some normalcy despite our circumstances. Finish your breakfast first. While Lily ate, Alexei moved closer, lowering his voice. We need to talk later. Dimitri's bringing information. About Jack? I whispered back. He nodded once, his expression grave. I'll tell you everything once Lily's occupied. An hour later, bundled in light jackets against the crisp morning air, Lily and I followed a narrow path through the woods. True to Alexei's word, a small lake appeared after a short walk, its surface glittering in the sunlight. Lily ran ahead, delighted to discover a family of ducks near the shore. I sat on a fallen log, watching her squat by the water's edge, talking softly to the ducks as if they could understand her. My mind drifted back to Alexei, to the complexity of emotions he stirred in me. Attraction, certainly. The man was devastatingly handsome, with a magnetism that went beyond mere looks. But there was more, a growing respect, a fragile trust, and something else I wasn't ready to name yet. Your mommy is thinking very hard, a voice said behind me. I turned to find Alexei approaching, his steps nearly silent on the forest floor. He wore dark jeans and a black sweater that emphasized the breadth of his shoulders. Even dressed casually, he emanated power and control. Dimitri's back? I asked, making room for him on the log. He nodded, sitting beside me, close enough that our shoulders touched. He is. And? Alexei's eyes followed Lily as she carefully placed a small flower on the water, watching it float toward the ducks. Jack Miller is definitely back in town. He's been staying at his uncle's lake house for the past 3 weeks. 3 weeks, I repeated. The timing aligned perfectly with when I'd discovered the photos in Alexei's hotel suite. There's more. Alexei turned to face me fully, his expression serious. I had my people dig deeper into his background. 6 years ago, shortly after he left you, he was recruited by the FBI. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. The FBI? That can't be right. It is. He's an agent now, working organized crime cases. Alexei's jaw tightened, including mine. My mind struggled to process this new information. Jack, the irresponsible boyfriend who'd abandoned his pregnant girlfriend, was an FBI agent? So he wasn't placed in my life by criminals, but by law enforcement? Possibly. Or he might have been recruited after leaving you. Either way, his reappearance now isn't a coincidence. Alexei reached for my hand, his warm fingers enveloping mine. "Ellie, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest," I nodded, still reeling. "Of course." "Did Jack ever show interest in my business specifically? Ask questions about hotel clients, about security measures, about wealthy guests?" I thought back, trying to remember details of a relationship I'd spent years trying to forget. He did ask about my work sometimes. Said he found it interesting, hearing about the rich and famous, but that seemed normal. People are always curious about what happens in luxury hotels. What about after you told him you were pregnant? Before he left? Did his behavior change? I frowned, digging deeper into painful memories. He became distant, stressed. He was on his phone a lot, having hushed conversations. I assumed he was talking to friends, getting advice about the pregnancy, maybe looking for a way out. But now you're wondering if he was reporting to handlers. Alexei finished for me. "If that's true," I said slowly, "then our entire relationship was a lie. He was using me to get information about hotel clients. The realization was like ice in my veins. Using me to get to people like you." Alexei's fingers tightened around mine. "I'm sorry." Lily's delighted laugh drew our attention. She had coaxed one of the bolder ducks closer to shore with a few breadcrumbs she'd saved from breakfast. "Does this mean the danger is from the FBI, not from criminals?" I asked, keeping my voice steady for Lily's sake. "It's complicated." Alexei sighed, running his free hand through his hair. "The FBI wouldn't sanction a hit on the mayor. That suggests there's corruption involved, possibly reaching into law enforcement. The commissioner, Jack's uncle, has ties to both legitimate authorities and certain criminal enterprises. It's a tangled web. And we're caught in the middle of it," I murmured. "You are," he corrected. "Because of me. Because you saw those photos." His expression darkened with self-recrimination. "I put you in this position." "No," I said firmly. "I made the choice to look in that drawer. And now I'm making the choice to stay with you." The certainty in my voice surprised even me. "You've protected us when no one else would or could." His eyes searched mine, looking for doubt or fear. Finding none, he brought my hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to my knuckles. "I don't deserve your trust. Maybe not," I admitted. "But you have it anyway." A complicated emotion crossed his face. Gratitude, desire, and something deeper that made my heart race. Before he could respond, Lily's excited voice called out, "Mommy, Mr. Alexei, come see! The duck has babies!" We rose together, still holding hands as we walked to where Lily was pointing at a mother duck with several tiny ducklings paddling behind her. "They're staying close to their mama," Lily observed. "So, they'll be safe." "That's right," Alexei said, his voice gentle. "That's what families do. They protect each other." The way he included himself in that statement wasn't lost on me. Somehow, in the midst of danger and uncertainty, the three of us had formed a unit of sorts. Fragile, perhaps, but undeniable. As we watched the duck family glide across the lake, Alexei's phone vibrated. He checked it, his expression immediately hardening. "We need to go back to the cabin," he said, all traces of softness gone. "Now." Something in his tone brooked no argument. I took Lily's hand, following Alexei as he led us quickly back through the woods. His posture had changed, alert and predatory, one hand inside his jacket where I suspected he carried a weapon. "What's happening?" I asked in a hushed voice once Lily was a few steps ahead, skipping along the path. Dmitri spotted a vehicle on the access road. He replied tersely, "It could be nothing, but I want you both inside." My heart began to pound. "Jack." "We don't know yet." The cabin came into view, Dmitri standing on the porch, his massive frame tense with alertness. Another guard I didn't recognize emerged from the trees to our right, acknowledging Alexei with a nod. "Inside," Alexei directed, ushering us up the steps. "Stay away from the windows." I guided Lily into the main room, trying to keep my expression calm. "Hey, sweetheart, why don't we play a game? How about hide and seek?" Her eyes lit up. "Can Mr. Alexei play too? Mr. Alexei has some work to do," I explained, catching his eye over her head. "Maybe later." "The best hiding spots are in your bedroom," Alexei suggested, his voice remarkably normal despite the tension radiating from him. Why don't you go set up a really good one while your mom counts? Lily nodded eagerly, disappearing into her bedroom. As soon as she was out of earshot, Alexei turned to me. A car was spotted 2 miles down the access road. It stopped, then turned around. Could be lost hikers, could be someone scouting. What do we do? I asked, struggling to keep panic at bay. We stay alert, but we don't overreact. He touched my cheek briefly. This place is secure, Ellie. Multiple lookout points, escape routes if needed. We'll be fine. I wanted to believe him, but fear was a cold knot in my stomach. If it's Jack, we'll deal with him, Alexei said, his voice taking on an edge that reminded me sharply of who he was. Not just the man who made my daughter pancakes and kissed me by the fire, but someone powerful and dangerous in his own right. Someone who dealt with problems in ways I probably didn't want to know about. I need to go count for Lily, I said, needing a moment to collect myself. Will you be here when I get back? He nodded. I'm not leaving you alone, Ellie. Not now. Not ever. The vehemence in his voice should have frightened me. Instead, it steadied me, a rock in the storm. I reached up, pressing a quick, fierce kiss to his lips, then went to find Lily. We played hide and seek for an hour, with Lily becoming increasingly creative in her hiding spots. I tried to focus on her giggles, on making this normal for her, but my mind kept returning to the danger that might be approaching. Eventually, Lily tired of the game and asked to draw. I set her up at the small kitchen table with paper and crayons Alexei had somehow thought to provide, then went in search of him. I found him in what appeared to be a small study off the main room, bent over a laptop with Dmitri beside him. They both looked up as I entered, their expressions grim. What's wrong? I asked, closing the door softly behind me. Alexei gestured to the laptop screen. Security camera caught this about 20 minutes ago. I moved closer, looking at the grainy image. A dark sedan was parked at what appeared to be the main road turnoff, partially hidden among the trees. A man stood beside it, looking down at something in his hands. A map, perhaps, or a phone. Even in the poor quality image, I recognized him instantly. The sandy hair, the lanky build, the way he stood with one hip cocked slightly. Jack, I whispered, the name like ash in my mouth. Alexei nodded once, his eyes cold. He's alone, as far as we can tell. No backup visible. What does he want? I asked, though I already suspected the answer. You, Alexei said simply. Or more accurately, what you know. He straightened, his decision apparently made. Dmitri, prepare the backup exit, just in case. I'll handle our visitor. The big man nodded and left, leaving Alexei and me alone in the small room. What are you going to do? I asked, unsure if I wanted to hear the answer. Talk to him. Alexei's voice was calm, reasonable. Find out what he knows, who he's working with, and if he doesn't want to talk. A dangerous smile curved his lips. Everyone wants to talk eventually, Ellie. The implication sent a shiver down my spine, but I found I couldn't judge him for it, not when Lily's safety was at stake. I want to be there, I said firmly. He shook his head. Absolutely not. He's Lily's father. The words tasted bitter, and he used me. I deserve to hear what he has to say. Alexei studied me for a long moment, as if measuring my resolve. You'll stay behind me at all times, he finally conceded. And if I tell you to leave, you leave, immediately, no questions. I nodded my agreement, relief and apprehension mingling in my chest. Mrs. Chen arrived while you were playing with Lily, Alexei continued. She'll stay with her while we deal with this. The thought of the kind housekeeper coming all this way to help us touched me. Thank you for thinking of that. His expression softened slightly. I try to think of everything where you and Lily are concerned. He reached out, adjusting the pendant around my neck, his fingers lingering against my skin. Remember what I said about this stone. Protection. I thought you weren't superstitious, I said, attempting a smile. I'm not. His eyes held mine, but I find myself believing in many things I didn't before I met you, before I could respond to that loaded statement. A soft beep came from the laptop. Alexei checked the screen, his expression hardening again. He's approaching the cabin, on foot. He moved to a cabinet in the corner, unlocking it to reveal several firearms. He selected a handgun, checking it with practiced ease before tucking it into a shoulder holster under his jacket. The transformation was immediate and complete. From the almost tender man of a moment ago to a predator preparing for confrontation, I should have been frightened. Instead, I felt oddly secure. Whatever else Alexei Volkov might be, he was deadly competent. "Stay here until I call for you," he instructed, moving toward the door. "I want to assess the situation first." I nodded, my heart pounding as he left the room. Through the small window, I watched as he stepped onto the porch, flanked by Dmitri and another guard. Their posture was relaxed but alert, giving nothing away. A minute later, Jack emerged from the tree line, alone as predicted. Even from a distance, I could see he hadn't changed much in 6 years. Still handsome in a boyish way, still moving with that easy confidence that had attracted me initially. But now I saw it differently, recognizing the trained grace of someone who knew how to handle himself. He stopped at the edge of the clearing, hands held slightly away from his sides to show he was unarmed. His voice carried faintly through the window. "Alexei Volkov, we need to talk." Alexei's response was too low for me to hear, but his stance remained unchanged. A predator allowing prey to approach, but ready to strike at any moment. Jack took a few steps closer, still maintaining a safe distance. "I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm here for Ellie Evans." At the sound of my name on his lips that had once promised love, then left me alone and pregnant, a cold rage settled over me. Before I could think better of it, I opened the study door and stepped onto the porch. "I'm right here, Jack," I called, moving to stand beside Alexei, who shot me a warning glance but didn't try to stop me. "What could you possibly want after 6 years of silence?" Jack's eyes widened slightly at the sight of me. "Ellie, thank God you're okay." His gaze flicked to Alexei, then back to me. "You need to come with me. You're in danger here." A bitter laugh escaped me. "The only time I've ever been in danger was when I trusted you." Confusion crossed his face. "What are you talking about?" "I'm trying to help you. Like you helped me when I was pregnant with your child?" The words were acid on my tongue. "Like you helped when Lily had colic and I hadn't slept in days? Like you helped with her first day of school, her doctor's appointments, her nightmares?" Jack at least had the grace to look ashamed. "I know I have a lot to make up for." "You have nothing to make up for," I interrupted, "because you are nothing to us. Not anymore." Alexei's hand settled lightly at the small of my back, a subtle show of support that gave me strength. "Ellie, please," Jack pleaded. "You don't understand what kind of man he is." He gestured to Alexei. "He's dangerous, a criminal. Whatever he's told you..." "He's told me the truth," I said firmly. "Which is more than I can say for you, Agent Miller." The use of his title clearly surprised him. His eyes narrowed, reassessing the situation. "So you know." "I know enough," I replied. "I know you used me to get information about hotel clients. I know you're working with your uncle, the commissioner. What I don't know is whether you ever cared about me at all, or if every moment between us was a lie." Pain flickered across his face, and for a moment, he looked like the Jack I'd once loved. "Not everything was a lie, Ellie. I did care for you. But my job... Your job was more important than your child." I finished for him. "I've understood that for years. What I don't understand is why you're here now, because you're in danger," he repeated, his voice urgent. "The mayor was just the beginning. There's a war brewing between rival organizations, and you're caught in the middle. Whatever you saw in that hotel room is none of your concern," Alexei cut in, his voice deceptively calm. "Ms. Evans and her daughter are under my protection." Jack's expression hardened. "Your protection is what put her in danger in the first place." "No, Jack," I said, finding clarity in the midst of chaos. "Your abandonment put us in danger. Every day, as I struggled to support Lily alone. Every night, as I worked extra shifts at the hotel where I eventually stumbled into this situation. If you had been a father to your daughter, I might never have been in that hotel suite that day." My words hit their mark. Jack flinched, genuine regret crossing his face. "Ellie, please. Come with me. Bring Lily. I can keep you safe. Put you in witness protection. And then what? I challenged. You'll suddenly be a father after 6 years of absence? You'll build a relationship with a daughter who doesn't even know you exist? Because I never told her about you, Jack. As far as Lily knows, her father is just gone. Not dead. Not busy. Just gone. The revelation seemed to physically pain him. I want to make it right, he said quietly. I want to know my daughter. You lost that right when you walked away, I replied, surprised by the steadiness of my own voice. But that's not why you're really here, is it? You want what I know about Alexei's operation. You're still putting the job first. Jack's silence was confirmation enough. Behind him, I noticed movement in the trees. Subtle, but definite. Alexei noticed it too. His posture shifted slightly, his hand moving imperceptibly closer to his concealed weapon. You didn't come alone after all, he observed, voice dangerously soft. Jack's expression changed, a flash of alarm quickly masked. I don't know what you're talking about. 3 men in the tree line, Alexei said calmly. Not very subtle. FBI backup, or something else. Before Jack could answer, the crack of a gunshot split the air. I screamed as Jack crumpled to the ground, blood blossoming on his shoulder. In one fluid motion, Alexei pushed me back toward the cabin door. Inside! Now! He shouted, drawing his weapon as more shots rang out. The next few moments passed in a chaotic blur. Alexei shoved me through the cabin door as Dmitri and the other guards returned fire, providing cover. Jack lay bleeding on the ground, crawling toward the partial shelter of the porch steps. Mommy? Lily's frightened voice came from the kitchen, where Mrs. Chen was holding her protectively. What's that noise? Just stay with Mrs. Chen, baby, I called, trying to keep my voice steady. Everything's okay. Mrs. Chen nodded once, understanding the gravity of the situation, and led Lily toward the back of the cabin. More gunshots echoed outside. Through the window, I could see Alexei crouched behind a large planter, exchanging fire with unseen assailants in the trees. Dmitri had taken position at the corner of the cabin, his massive frame surprisingly agile as he moved from cover to cover. Jack had managed to drag himself to the porch, leaving a smear of blood on the wooden planks. His face was pale with pain and shock, but he was conscious, pressing one hand to his wounded shoulder. Against every instinct for self-preservation, I opened the door just enough to grab his uninjured arm. Come on! I hissed, pulling him inside. He stumbled through the doorway, collapsing against the wall as I slammed and locked the door behind him. Why? He gasped, looking up at me with confusion. Because you're Lily's father, I said simply. No matter what else you've done. I grabbed a clean dish towel from the kitchen and pressed it against his bleeding shoulder. Who are they, Jack? Not FBI. He grimaced in pain. No. My uncle's men. He broke off, coughing. He's in deep with the Sokolov organization, rival to Volkov's operation. The pieces clicked into place. The commissioner sent you to find me, but he also sent them to eliminate anyone who knew about the photos. Including me, Jack confirmed grimly, once I served my purpose. Your own uncle? I couldn't hide my shock. Family means nothing to him, just power. Jack's eyes met mine, genuine remorse in their depths. I never wanted you involved in this, Ellie. I thought I was protecting you by leaving. Funny way of showing it, I muttered, though the anger that had sustained me for 6 years was giving way to something more complicated. A brief lull in the gunfire was followed by shouted orders outside. I peered cautiously through a gap in the curtains to see Alexei directing his men in a flanking maneuver. Despite the danger, I couldn't help admiring the cool authority with which he handled the crisis, a stark contrast to Jack, who had always avoided difficult situations. He cares for you, Jack observed quietly, watching my face. Volkov. I can see it. I turned back to him, surprised by his perception. Yes, he does. And you care for him. It wasn't a question. I nodded, not bothering to deny it. He's protected us, been there for Lily in ways you never were. Pain flickered across his face that had nothing to do with his physical wound. I've missed so much of her life. 6 years, I agreed, my voice softening despite myself. She's smart, stubborn, Loves stories about princesses who save themselves. She has your eyes. Jack swallowed hard. Could I meet her? Just once, when this is over. Before I could answer, the back door burst open. Alexei strode in, his expression thunderous until his eyes landed on me. Relief washed over his features, quickly replaced by cold fury when he saw Jack. You brought him inside? The question was dangerously quiet. He's injured, I said, standing my ground. And he has information. Alexei's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. The situation outside is contained. For now, 3 men down, but there will be more coming. His gaze shifted to Jack. Talk. Everything you know. Now. Despite his injury and the blood-soaked towel pressed to his shoulder, Jack straightened, meeting Alexei's stare directly. My uncle, Commissioner Miller, has been working with the Sokolov family for years. They've been trying to take over your territory, but they needed leverage. The photos you've been collecting as insurance. When Ellie accidentally saw them, she became a liability. And your role in this? Alexei demanded. I was sent to find her, gain her trust, get her away from you. Jack glanced at me. I didn't know she was with you willingly. Or that you were... He trailed off, gesturing vaguely between us. And the mayor's death? Alexei pressed. Sokolov's order, carried out by my uncle's men. Harrington was getting nervous, threatening to expose the whole operation. They couldn't risk it. Jack winced as he shifted position. The commissioner's next on their list. He just doesn't know it yet. Alexei processed this information, his tactical mind visibly working through the implications. How many men does your uncle have at his disposal? 12, maybe more. Not counting Sokolov's people. Jack's breathing was becoming labored, his face paler. They know about this cabin. We need to move. The we didn't escape my notice, nor Alexei's, judging by the tightening of his expression. But he didn't correct Jack. Dmitri is securing the secondary exit route, Alexei said, his eyes meeting mine. There's a tunnel from the cellar that leads to a hidden garage about half a mile from here. We have transport waiting. Lily, I said immediately. Is she safe? Mrs. Chen has her in the safe room. She's frightened, but unharmed. His voice softened. She's a brave girl, like her mother. A fresh volley of gunfire outside interrupted our conversation. Alexei moved to the window, assessing the situation with a quick glance. They're regrouping at the edge of the clearing. We have minutes, at most. He turned to Jack, his decision apparently made. Can you walk? Jack nodded, though the effort clearly cost him. Well enough. Then you're coming with us. Alexei's tone left no room for argument. Not because I trust you, but because you're a liability to them now. And you know things we need to know. Jack looked surprised, but nodded again. Fair enough. And, Alexei added, his eyes finding mine, because Ellie seems to think you deserve a chance to meet your daughter. I disagree, but I respect her judgment. The acknowledgement that my feelings mattered to him, that Lily's connection to her father held weight, warmed me even in the midst of danger. Dmitri appeared in the doorway, his massive frame blocking most of the light. Exit secure, boss, but we need to move now. Get Mrs. Chen and the child, Alexei ordered. Ellie, help Agent Miller. I'll cover our retreat. I looped Jack's uninjured arm around my shoulders, supporting his weight as we moved toward the back of the cabin. He was heavier than I expected, his breath coming in pained gasps with each step. Mrs. Chen emerged from a concealed door in the hallway paneling. Lily clutched against her side. My daughter's eyes were wide with fear, but she wasn't crying. Mommy, she exclaimed, breaking free to run to me. I'm here, baby. I managed to embrace her with my free arm, awkwardly balancing Jack's weight. We need to go on another adventure now, okay? Like a secret mission. Lily's eyes darted to Jack, curious but wary. Who's that? A friend who's hurt, I said, not ready for introductions in the middle of a firefight. We're helping him. Her small face set in determination. Like when Tommy fell off the monkey bars and I helped him up? Just like that, I agreed, marveling at her ability to process the situation through her 6-year-old lens. Mrs. Chen led us through the hidden door into a narrow passageway that sloped downward. Emergency lights cast an eerie glow along the concrete walls. The sound of gunfire grew muted as the door closed behind us, but the danger felt no less immediate. Jack stumbled beside me, leaning more heavily on my support. "She's beautiful," he whispered, his eyes on Lily's dark curls ahead of us. "You've done an amazing job with her." "I had to," I replied simply. We reached a larger chamber that had been converted into a garage of sorts. 2 SUVs with tinted windows waited, engines already running. Dimitri ushered Mrs. Chen and Lily into the first vehicle while I helped Jack into the second. "Where's Alexei?" I asked, anxiety building as I realized he hadn't joined us. "Covering our escape," Dimitri replied tersely. "He'll be here." As if summoned by his name, Alexei appeared in the tunnel entrance, backing in with his weapon still drawn. He exchanged quick words with the guard at the door, then jogged to our vehicle. "They're breaching the cabin," he said, as he slid into the seat beside me. "But we've left them a surprise." The grim satisfaction in his voice told me I was better off not knowing what kind of surprise awaited the attackers. Alexei's eyes scanned the garage, taking in our positions. "Dimitri, take Mrs. Chen and Lily in the first vehicle. Head for Safe House 3. We'll follow in the second with Agent Miller." "I want to go with Mommy," Lily protested, her face appearing in the window of the other SUV. "You will, sweetheart," Alexei assured her, his voice gentler than I'd ever heard it. "We'll be right behind you. Mrs. Chen has candy in her purse for brave girls on secret missions." This strategic bribery worked. Lily's eyes widened, and she settled back into her seat without further argument. I mouthed a "thank you" to Alexei, touched by how naturally he handled her fears. The first SUV pulled away, disappearing into a tunnel that sloped upward toward daylight. Our vehicle followed close behind. Jack slumped against the window in the back seat, his breathing increasingly labored. "He needs a doctor," I said quietly to Alexei. "There's one waiting at the safe house," he replied, his eyes fixed on the tunnel ahead. "If he survives that long, he will," I said with more certainty than I felt. Not for Jack's sake, but for Lily's. She deserved the chance to know her father, to decide for herself what role he would play in her life. We emerged from the tunnel into blinding daylight, the SUV speeding along a dirt road hidden in the dense forest. In the distance, I heard what sounded like an explosion. Alexei's surprise for our pursuers, presumably. "Where are we going?" I asked, watching the first SUV's taillights ahead of us. "Somewhere they can't find us," Alexei answered. "An old property registered under a shell corporation. Off the grid, but comfortable." His hand found mine, squeezing gently. "You and Lily will be safe there, and then what?" The question that had been hovering at the edges of my mind finally found voice. Alexei's eyes met mine, serious and sincere. "Then we end this, permanently." "How?" A cold smile touched his lips. "Agent Miller has given us everything we need to move against the Sokolov organization and the Commissioner. Sometimes the best weapon is information, not bullets." In the back seat, Jack stirred. "You're going to need more than information," he said weakly. "You'll need proof, evidence that will stand up in court." "Like photographs in a hotel desk drawer?" Alexei asked pointedly. Jack managed a pained laugh. "Exactly like that, except more of them. Enough to bring down an empire. I have more," Alexei confirmed. "Much more. Enough to destroy Sokolov and everyone connected to him, including your uncle." "Good," Jack said, surprising me with his vehemence. "He deserves it, all of it." We drove in silence for a while, the forest gradually giving way to more open countryside. The first SUV maintained its lead, Lily safely inside with Mrs. Chen and Dimitri. Despite everything, I felt a strange sense of calm. Whatever happened next, we were together, protected. "Jack," I said, turning in my seat to face him, "why did you really leave when I told you I was pregnant? Was it just the job, or was there more to it?" He was quiet for so long I thought he might not answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "I was scared, Ellie, not just of being a father, but of what my job would mean for you and the baby. I'd seen what happened to agents with families, the constant fear, the targets on their backs. His eyes, so like Lily's, met mine. And yes, my handler pressured me to maintain my cover, to stay close to the hotel operation, but I could have fought harder to keep you both in my life. I chose the easy way out instead. The honesty in his admission disarmed me. For 6 years, I'd imagined him as either a complete villain or an irresponsible boy, unable to handle responsibility. The truth, as always, was more complicated. "Thank you for telling me that," I said finally. "It doesn't change what happened, but it helps to understand." Jack nodded weakly, his eyelids drooping as the blood loss took its toll. Alexei caught my worried glance. "He'll make it," he assured me. "He's too stubborn to die before meeting his daughter properly." The safe house, when we reached it an hour later, was nothing like I expected. Instead of another secluded cabin, we arrived at a sprawling estate protected by high walls and an electronic gate. Guards patrolled the perimeter, and security cameras monitored every approach. "Welcome to Villa Volkov," Alexei said as we passed through the gates. "My family home." The mansion that appeared before us was a stunning blend of old-world elegance and modern security. Stone walls, ivy-covered in places, rose majestically against the late afternoon sky. Manicured gardens surrounded the property, and I caught a glimpse of Lily already exploring a fountain near the entrance, Mrs. Chen watching nearby. "It's beautiful," I breathed. "It's been in my family for generations," Alexei explained, a touch of pride in his voice. "Hidden in plain sight, registered under a legitimate business entity. The one place the Sokolovs would never think to look for us." Medical staff were waiting as we pulled up to the entrance, quickly transferring Jack to a stretcher and whisking him inside. Lily ran to me as I stepped from the vehicle, throwing her arms around my waist. "Mommy, this place has a fountain with fish in it, and Mrs. Chen says there's a library with all the princess books ever." I stroked her hair, relief washing over me at having her safe in my arms. "That sounds amazing, sweetheart. Is your friend going to be okay?" she asked, her expression growing serious as she watched Jack being carried inside. He looked really hurt. "Yes, baby. He'll be okay." I exchanged a glance with Alexei over her head. "And when he's feeling better, there's someone I want you to meet." The next 3 days passed in a strange bubble of safety and waiting. Jack underwent surgery to remove the bullet from his shoulder and was recovering in one of the guest suites. Alexei was often locked in his office with Dmitri and other associates, strategizing their next move against the Sokolov organization, and I found myself in a beautiful limbo, trying to process everything that had happened, while keeping life as normal as possible for Lily. True to Alexei's word, the villa's library was stocked with children's books that kept Lily happily occupied for hours. Mrs. Chen proved to be not just an excellent housekeeper, but a patient storyteller, entertaining my daughter with tales from her own childhood in China. On the evening of the 3rd day, Alexei found me on the terrace overlooking the gardens. Lily had been put to bed after an exhausting day of exploration, and I had slipped away for a moment of quiet reflection. "You look troubled," he observed, coming to stand beside me at the stone balustrade. I smiled faintly. "Just thinking about how much has changed in such a short time. 2 weeks ago, I was a hotel maid worrying about making rent. Now I'm here." "Do you regret it?" he asked, his voice carefully neutral. "Getting involved in all this?" I turned to face him fully, taking in his features in the soft evening light. Despite the danger we'd faced, despite the uncertainty still ahead, my answer came easily. "No, I don't regret it. Not when it led me to you." Something in his expression softened, the perpetual guard lowering just for me. "Ellie." Words seemed inadequate for what had grown between us. I reached for him instead, my fingers tracing the strong line of his jaw. He caught my hand, pressing a kiss to my palm, then drew me into his arms. This kiss was different from our first, not born from fear or adrenaline, but from something deeper, more certain. I melted against him, my arms winding around his neck as his hands splayed across my back, drawing me closer. When we finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, he pressed his forehead to mine. "I've never felt this way before," he confessed, his voice rough with emotion. "Never allowed myself to." "Because of your work?" I asked softly. "Because of who I am, what I've done." His eyes, so intensely blue, searched mine. I'm not a good man, Ellie. You are to me, I said simply. To Lily. The rest is complicated, but that truth isn't. He kissed me again, more gently this time, his hands cradling my face as if I were something precious. A discreet cough from the doorway interrupted us. We turned to find Mrs. Chen, her expression carefully neutral. Forgive the intrusion, Mr. Volkov, but Agent Miller is asking for Ms. Evans. He says it's important. Alexei's arms tightened around me briefly before releasing me. Go, I'll be in my office when you're done, I nodded, smoothing my hair self-consciously as I followed Mrs. Chen back inside. She led me to the guest suite where Jack was recovering, knocking once before leaving me alone in the doorway. Jack was sitting up in bed, looking better than I'd expected. Some color had returned to his face, and the bandage on his shoulder was less bulky than before. Ellie, he said, his voice stronger than it had been in the car. Thank you for coming. I entered cautiously, taking a seat in the chair beside his bed. Mrs. Chen said it was important. He nodded, adjusting his position with a wince. I've been in contact with my superiors at the bureau, the ones I trust, not the ones in my uncle's pocket. My eyebrows rose in surprise. Alexei allowed that? It was his idea, actually. Jack looked equally surprised. He's smarter than I gave him credit for. He knows this ends best for everyone if it's done legally, through proper channels. What did your superiors say? They're mobilizing. The evidence Alexei provided, combined with my testimony, is enough to bring down my uncle and most of the Sokolov organization. He looked at me directly. But there's a catch. My stomach tightened. What catch? You'll need to testify too, Ellie, about what you saw in that hotel room. It places you directly in danger. I had expected this, had known deep down that our ordeal wouldn't end cleanly without my involvement. I'll do whatever it takes to keep Lily safe, I said firmly. If that means testifying, I will. Jack's expression softened with what looked like respect. You've always been stronger than I gave you credit for. I had to be. The words held no bitterness now, just a simple acknowledgement of truth. He nodded, accepting this. There's something else. He paused, seeming to gather his courage. I'd like to meet Lily properly, as her father, if you'll allow it. The request, though expected, still caught me off guard. I studied him thoughtfully, weighing the implications. You're planning to stay in her life this time? I want to try, he said sincerely. I know I don't deserve it, and I know it'll be complicated. I'm not asking to be Dad of the Year overnight. Just a chance to know her, on whatever terms you set. I considered his request, thinking of Lily, of how she'd always wondered about the father she'd never known. I'll introduce you tomorrow, I decided, as her father. But the relationship builds slowly, on her terms and mine. And you never, ever make promises you can't keep. Relief washed over his features. Thank you, Ellie. That's more than I deserve. It's not about what you deserve, I said honestly. It's about what's right for Lily. He nodded, understanding the distinction. And what about you and Volkov? That looked serious. I felt a flush rising to my cheeks. It is. Serious, I care for him deeply. Despite what he is, Jack couldn't hide the hint of judgment in his voice. Because of who he is, I corrected. The man who protected us, who respected me, who makes pancakes shaped like elephants for a little girl he just met. I stood, ready to end the conversation. People are complicated, Jack. You of all people should understand that. He had the grace to look chastened. Fair enough. I just want you to be careful. I will be, I assured him. But my heart is my own to give. As I turned to leave, Jack called after me. For what it's worth, Ellie, I think he truly loves you. I've never seen Alexei Volkov look at anyone the way he looks at you. The words followed me down the hallway as I made my way to Alexei's office, a warmth blooming in my chest despite the uncertainty still facing us. I found him at his desk, poring over documents, the weight of responsibility evident in the set of his shoulders. He looked up as I entered, his expression immediately softening. How did it go? He asked, setting aside his work. Well enough. I moved around the desk, perching on its edge beside him. He told me about your plan, using the legal system to bring down Sokolov and the commissioner. Alexei nodded. It's cleaner that way. Less collateral damage. And what about you? I asked the question that had been nagging at me. Won't this expose your own business activities? A small smile touched his lips. I've been preparing for this possibility for years, Ellie. My legitimate businesses are well insulated from my other ventures, and sometimes, to win the larger war, one must concede a battle. Meaning? Meaning, I'm willing to step back from certain aspects of my operation to ensure your safety and Lily's. His hand found mine, our fingers intertwining naturally. Some things are worth the sacrifice. The implication took my breath away. You would do that? For us? For you, he confirmed, his voice low and intense. For the family we could be. Family. The word hung in the air between us, full of promise and possibility. I leaned down, pressing my lips to his in a gentle kiss that conveyed everything words couldn't. I'm introducing Jack to Lily tomorrow, I said when we broke apart, as her father. If I expected jealousy or resistance, I was mistaken. Alexei merely nodded his understanding. She deserves to know her heritage, and he deserves a chance to be better than he was. The magnanimity of his response only deepened my feelings for him. Thank you for understanding. I understand family, Ellie, its importance, its power. His thumb traced circles on the inside of my wrist. And I want you to know that whatever relationship he builds with Lily, it doesn't threaten what I hope to build with both of you. The promise in those words, the future they hinted at, made my heart swell. And what do you hope to build? He stood, drawing me fully into his arms. Something permanent. Something true. If you'll have me. My answer was in the way I melted against him, in the tears that threatened at the corners of my eyes, in the kiss that sealed a promise between us. One more binding than any legal document or criminal code. 1 month later, I stood in the courtroom, my testimony complete. The commissioner's face had grown increasingly pale as I described the photographs I'd seen in Alexei's hotel suite, evidence of corruption that reached into every corner of the city's power structure. Jack's testimony had followed mine, more detailed and damning. The trial had made headlines, exposing a network of corruption that had festered for years. The Sokolov organization was in tatters, its key members arrested or in hiding. And Alexei, true to his word, had strategically distanced himself from his less legitimate ventures, emerging as a businessman cooperating with authorities rather than a target of their investigation. As I stepped down from the witness stand, my eyes found Alexei in the gallery. He sat tall and imposing in a perfectly tailored suit, his expression unreadable to most. But I could see the pride in his eyes, the subtle nod of approval he gave me. Outside the courthouse, away from the media frenzy, he pulled me into his arms. You were magnificent, he murmured against my hair, brave as always. Is it really over? I asked, still hardly daring to believe it. The worst of it, he confirmed. There will be more hearings, more legal proceedings, but the danger has passed. Sokolov is finished. Relief washed through me. And Lily? Safe at home with Mrs. Chen, waiting for us. His eyes softened at the mention of my daughter, who had in these few short weeks claimed a piece of his heart as surely as I had. And Jack called. He'll be by tomorrow for their scheduled visit. The arrangement was working better than I'd expected. Jack, still recovering from his injury, had begun building a cautious relationship with Lily. He came by the villa twice a week, reading her stories, learning her likes and dislikes, earning her trust slowly but surely. He and Alexei maintained a careful civility around each other, not friends, certainly, but united in their concern for Lily's well-being. Take me home, I said, suddenly weary of courtrooms and justice systems and the weight of the past. Alexei's car waited at the curb, Dmitri standing guard beside it. The drive back to the villa passed in comfortable silence, my head resting on Alexei's shoulder, his arm around me protectively. Home. The word had taken on new meaning in recent weeks. No longer the small apartment where Lily and I had struggled to get by, but the villa with its gardens and fountains, its library and warm kitchen where Mrs. Chen taught Lily to make dumplings. Home was Alexei's arms around me at night, his voice reading bedtime stories to Lily, the future we were building together. As we pulled through the gates, Lily came running down the front steps, her face alight with excitement. "Mommy!" "Alexei, come see what I made!" I laughed as she tugged us both by the hand into the house, leading us to the kitchen where a lopsided cake sat proudly on the counter, frosting unevenly applied but clearly made with love. "Mrs. Chen helped with the oven," Lily explained, "but I did the decorating all by myself." "It's beautiful," Alexei said seriously, examining it with the same attention he gave to business reports. "The most beautiful cake I've ever seen." Lily beamed up at him, then at me. "It's to celebrate. Mrs. Chen said today was important." "It was," I agreed, smoothing her dark curls, "and this is the perfect way to celebrate." Later that evening, after Lily was tucked into bed with promises of cake for breakfast, Alexei and I stood on our bedroom balcony, watching the stars emerge in the velvet sky. "I have something for you," he said, producing a small box from his pocket. My breath caught as he opened it to reveal a ring, a stunning blue diamond surrounded by smaller white ones, echoing the pendant that still hung around my neck. "Ellie Evans," he began, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant, "you came into my life unexpectedly. On your knees cleaning a bloodstain that wasn't your responsibility. You've seen the darkest parts of me and stayed anyway. You've brought light and purpose into a life I thought would always be defined by power and control alone." He took my hand, his blue eyes more vulnerable than I'd ever seen them. "I'm not a perfect man. My past is complicated. My business still walks gray areas. But I promise you this. My love for you and Lily is the purest thing I've ever known. Will you marry me? Make this family we've found official." Tears blurred my vision as I nodded, words failing me completely. He slipped the ring onto my finger, then drew me into his arms, his kiss sealing the promise between us. "I never thought my life would change because I noticed a stain," I whispered against his lips, echoing the thought that had begun this journey. "But I'm so glad it did. Fate has strange ways of working," Alexei agreed, holding me close. "But I believe we were always meant to find each other." As we stood there under the stars, his strong arms around me, I knew he was right. From hotel maid to protected beloved, from danger to safety, from loneliness to family, my path had been unexpected, but perfect in its way. The blue diamond on my finger caught the moonlight, sparkling like a promise kept. Protection, yes, but also something more. Belonging, love, home. In Alexei's arms, with Lily sleeping peacefully down the hall, I had found what I'd been searching for all along. Not just safety, but a place to truly belong. A family forged through danger and choice, stronger for the trials we'd overcome together. And as Alexei's lips found mine once more under the stars, I knew this was just the beginning of our story.